gentlemen, it's about to go down.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your hosts, RGX, RateWrestle, and Frozzy, representing Honor Club, and you're watching HCW.
Hello everyone, welcome to the HCW show. This is just a quick news roundup. Stay quick, there has been a lot over the last week. So just myself and RateWrestle for this one. For those of you looking for the tier maker, don't you fret, it will be on in a separate video later on today. Just given the amount of news this week, we thought it best to separate this out so that we're not burying the lead, so to speak. But how are you doing anyway, Ray?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. We've got a week off this week, so it's just nice not to be doing anything and sitting in my garden and drinking. That's the dream.
I am jealous both of the weather and the time off.
Gracias.
But yeah, as I say, there is a lot to get into here, and I'm going to start with the Vince McMahon timeline of events. Now, for anyone not familiar with what's going on, currently the CEO and chairman of WWE has had to take a step back from WWE as he is currently under investigation for payments made to a person that he had an affair with. So I'm just going to run through the timeline. So starting in 2019, WWE hired a paralegal to work in the marketing department, reporting to Jerry McDevitt on $100,000 a year. Keep that figure in mind, that is important. Because after McMahon starts was believed to have been a sexual relationship with this paralegal, her salary was increased to $200,000 a year. And in 2021, on John Laurinaitis' return to the company, McMahon allegedly hands her off like a toy to Laurinaitis. And in January 2022, she is paid off from the company and made to sign an NDA. And the settlement in order to do this is approximately $3 million. McMahon and McDevitt stressed that this didn't come out of WWE funds. So that is the primary basis of their defence. Obviously, paying people off with an NDA in and itself is not illegal, but it is a common practice, sadly. However, if they are using company funds to do so, without disclosing that to the board, that is a whole different question. Now, in April 2022, allegations are made to the board of directors by a supposed friend of this paralegal. It's been exposed since, thanks to Brad Shepard. I will not be sharing any of the names though, because I am not an evil bastard like that man is. And upon receipt of the email, the board hire an investigation solicitor firm, Simpson, Fitch and Barnett LLC, to commence an investigation. None of this is public at that stage. It is currently just essentially McMahon, paralegal, and the board members that are aware of this. However, in her position as a board member, Stephanie McMahon steps away from her responsibilities in WWE as Chief Brand Officer, as we reported here on the show at the time. She did state in her press conference regarding this that she was doing so in order to spend time with her family, particularly as her husband Triple H had a cardiac issue last year that he has recovered from. However, with him returning to more duties, she's stated that she wanted to spend more time at home with family. Now, we could have speculated at the time, and many sources including Wrestling Observer, Fightful, PWI, are all stating that there is likely more to the story that we'll hear in due time. We even said this ourselves. And I believe that given the timing, and this is speculation, that it may have had something to do with this investigation. Now, on the 7th of June, a story was fed to the Business Insider by one of the executives at WWE. Although it wasn't a named source, Business Insider is a large publication, stating that Steph was not doing well at her job. She had targets she failed to hit. It's my belief, I don't know about you, Ray, that that's probably Vince lashing out at being what he sees as being abandoned by Stephanie in his time of need.
Yeah, it does sound like it now after all this has come out. Obviously, it's still speculation, but it sounds like it could be.
Yeah. And it's not like Vince has been known to put out news stories about talent and former employees after they've left.
No.
And on the 16th of June is the big day for all of us when the Wall Street Journal comes out, and that story has been made public in there. They have access to all the emails that were sent to the board, and they essentially give a timeline of what we've covered here. The story is fully public. A statement is issued by the WWE Board of Directors that Vince McMahon has stepped back from his position as CEO and chairman of the WWE. And Stephanie McMahon, who had been on a leave of absence, is now in as CEO and interim chairwoman. Vince would be retaining his control of creative, which we've seen is quite clear from the last couple episodes of TV.
Yeah.
And he announces that he'll be on TV in character on SmackDown later that evening to address his absence. It does come out. The horrible fans that were in attendance sing his theme and cheer him. As he says, the then, now, forever together means that we're in this together. Oh, it says welcome to SmackDown, and that's it. So actually doesn't address it at all. Now, just on the point of Stephanie being put in charge, although everyone's saying, oh, why isn't it Nick Khan? I think it's actually a very smart move. Cynical, but smart move by WWE to put a woman in charge, considering this all started over initially consensual, but according to the Wall Street Journal report, towards the end, non-consensual sexual relationship. So it almost separates WWE from the actions of Vince McMahon by putting a woman in charge. That's just my view on it. What about yourself, Ray?
Yeah, like you can look at it. It's very much speculative, isn't it? It's kind of like with the whole situation, like it was consensual, then it wasn't consensual, and it's very much it's still to be proven what's happening.
A big point of it for me is the point where it says that McMahon handed her off to Laurinaitis like a toy. In the Wall Street Journal, and the source that they have, they state that's the point, that it became non-consensual. Should be reminded as well that both Vince and Laurinaitis are, or at least at that time, were married men. McMahon has been separated from Linda for some time.
Yeah.
It's not stated directly it's due to this, but I can't imagine it wouldn't have anything to do with it. And on Saturday, just gone, WWE confirmed that John Laurinaitis had been placed on administrative leave, or gardening leave as we call it here in the UK.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a fancy way of saying suspended without pay.
Yeah,
Right.
so it looks like he hasn't done wrong, kind of. Like, the
Yeah.
company not saying he's done wrong, yeah.
Just before Raw went on air last night, Bruce Pritchard was placed in charge of talent relations on an initial interim basis. Of course, that means that the person in charge of creative and oversees creative and is the gateway to Mr. McMahon, as far as that's concerned, is also now in charge of the talent HR issues. So can you imagine how difficult the conversation is now asking for time off?
Good old brother love. Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to. It's the inner workings of it. I don't know what Bruce Pritchard's like now to what he used to be like. Like, he used to be a proper yes man. I don't know what he's like now.
I believe that's very much still the case, considering Vince's inner circle, especially since Pat and what was the other stooge?
Briscoe.
Briscoe
Yeah.
are Dandor passed away.
Yeah, he's also done the job before though, hasn't he? So it's kind of, you have to look at that way as well. Like, he was talent relations before, wasn't he?
I believe he was. He
Was
was
he not?
executive producer when he first came back,
Okay.
and then in charge of creative. In his initial stint, it was always JR, Warrenitis, and Canyon Sieben.
Oh yeah, so he was an age, like a head booker and stuff, wasn't he? I can't remember. Yeah.
And of course, he's also now in charge of the payroll, determining payouts for pay-per-views and stuff as well, for premium live events.
Yeah.
Which, in my opinion, that's a dangerous mix for the talent. According to Fightful, many are quite happy at the fact that Laurinaitis is gone. They say it's now a double-edged sword with Richard taking over.
Yeah, I've heard more negative things about Laurinaitis than I've heard about Pritchard in general, so I can see why.
Even if he was the nicest man on the planet, like, and advocates for everyone, still having the same person in charge of creative as HR and payroll. That's,
Oh yeah, it's conflicting.
yeah. Especially when he'll have his favourites that he's been writing out TV each week. Like, imagine making the case to get on TV now, or take time off if you need it.
Yeah, no, it's going to be very much a struggle for people there.
Now, I did read somewhere that Vince was supposed to be on Raw last night as well. You've just finished watching Raw, right?
Yeah, he was. He came down. They all cheered him. He was in the ring. Then he just basically discussed John Cena coming back next week. That was it. So it's basically just showing his face on TV. Is what's happening at the moment.
It's extremely cynical. To me, it's in poor taste, but I understand the tactical side of doing that. Like, I'm not the face of WWE, but I'm the face of WWE.
Yeah, I think it's also if he doesn't, it feels like if he doesn't appear, he's also guilty instantly. I'm feeling like so. If you kind of hide in plain sight.
And many talent, according to Fightful and the employees and stuff that they've spoke to and reached out for comment, all said that Vince was far from a withdrawn figure. He was jovial, he was interacting, he was very much business as normal.
That's what people do though when they're hiding, aren't they? Yeah, they go more.
Yeah, so put it in a wrestling term, he's no sell in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
Which I suppose is the right move, but it's still weird. Because although the issue of the 3 million, if there's a paper trail backing that up through McDevitt, that came through McMahon's own pocket, there's still the issue over the increased salary, which was WWE money. So they could still find that he's acted in in a manner that brings the board into disrepute and is against like employment policy or whatever it is in the US, which could lead to sanctions against McMahon himself if they keep it internal and FTC doesn't get involved in it, which at this point I don't believe they are. But yeah, that's where we're up to with the Vince McMahon stuff just now. We had planned on releasing this sooner, but every time we arranged something, more would come out. So I'm kind of glad we waited because we were able to put this comprehensive timeline together of what's happened, so that even non-wrestling fans that watch can understand what's going on, why it's a big deal. Because essentially, at this moment in time, Vince McMahon is in charge of WWE for the first time in 42 years.
In essence, yeah. Look, he's not in charge.
So that in itself is huge, never mind the circumstances surrounding it.
Yeah. He'll come out of it. Vince McMahon's that kind of guy. Like, I can't see it ending badly for him.
He's Teflon until a sale happens.
Yeah. And then he doesn't care by that point.
So that just about covers all the Vince McMahon stuff. Sadly, there were a couple deaths over the last week as well, both from high-profile referees. First of all, being Dave Hebner, brother Earl Hebner, who screwed Bret Hart, Montreal Screwjob. Like, for all intents and purposes, was a very lovely man. His huge matches on his resume, including between Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat at WrestleMania 3, Savage and Hogan at WrestleMania 5, and of course the Twin Magic moment.
I was going to say,
with him and his brother when Andre the Giant beat Hogan in main event, which we were talking about when we did Tier Maker last week.
I love how at that point the whole story was that you got DiBiase paid someone off to get plastic surgery to look like Earl Hebner. It wasn't at the Twins, plastic surgery.
Yeah. So once he retired, he stayed with WWE in a backstage role right up until 2005. So had a near 30-year career with WWE. So that was in the 18th of June.
Yeah.
But sadly, he wasn't the only referee to pass away this weekend. As Tim White passed away on the 20th. Tim White was a referee through the end of the Attitude Era and start of the Ruthless Aggression. He sadly had to retire from refereeing after an awkward fall into a steel cage where he injured his shoulder when he was taking a bump. Some of the biggest matches he had was The Undertaker and Mankind at King of the Ring 1998, of course, when Mankind took that ridiculous bump. And there was the really fun, but really kind of cringe at the same time segments that he did with Josh Matthews.
Oh, I thought you were going to bring them up. That's good. I was going to bring it up.
Obviously, at the time, everyone saw it in poor taste, and a lot still do. But it was that kind of, that's close to the knuckle, but still a bit funny. Where he was repeatedly attempting to add himself to the obituary column in order to...
But it was so over the top, you knew it was a joke. That's what it wasn't. It wasn't like a dark brooding light, and it was like he was jumping into a fan. It's kind of...
And I do believe that was his real bar, like that he owns. And he's another one that every single talent backstage had nothing but nice things to say about him. So he's another one that had a nearly 25-year refereeing career and then continued to work with WWE, do signings and appearances and stuff right up until very recently. So it's another one that's really sad. Sasha Banks. There's been a lot of speculation over whether she's actually released or not. At this moment in time, WWE have still not confirmed anything. It was initially reported by Raj Gupta and backed up by WrestleVotes. She had indeed managed to get a release through her attorneys, but Sasha herself took to Twitter to say, "Don't believe everything you read on Twitter." So that was the last we've known. Though some of the talent backstage, according to Fightful, does believe she's gone from the company, although she is still listed internally on the roster. And through all of this, there's been no talk of Naomi at all, which is a little bit sad in itself.
Yeah, it's because she's overshadowed, isn't she? It's like Naomi's always been like, give Sasha Banks like the four horsewomen, and then Naomi. You know, it's kind of like she's overshadowed, unfortunately.
Yeah, and apologies, my dog is barking again.
It's fine. It adds environment. Yep, he agreed. Let's move on.
So, speaking of attorneys, it's a very law-heavy episode of the news this week. But for anyone that's been following or seeing regarding Sunny, also known as Tammy Sytch, which is the real name, is currently incarcerated, has been for 39 days so far because of a DUI manslaughter charge that's been levied against her that took place back in March. In May 6th, where she crashed into a 75-year-old man, resulting in his death. She'd been on Twitter and stuff about this, saying that he had died of a heart attack. It had nothing to do with her. But the long and short of it is, she was arrested for being 3.5 times over the legal alcohol limit, eerily close to the level that Jeff Hardy was when he was pulled over. So if she was in that kind of state, that blood alcohol level enough to kill someone, I dread to think what could have happened with Jeff's situation. But when she was booked in, she was charged with DUI manslaughter, driving with a suspended or revoked license, causing death or serious injury, and 7 counts of DUI damage to personal property. Now, as of June 16th, her attorney, Stephen Delarouche, has petitioned the judge to remove himself as her legal counsel. And in that, he cited that an impasse has been reached in the handling of the case, making it impossible for the client and the attorney to continue working cooperatively on the case. The client has not complied with the terms of the employment agreement with the attorney, which I believe is referencing the fact she hasn't paid him. The client will not be prejudiced if the motion is permitted to withdraw. Basically meaning that she will have alternative counsel if he precludes himself. But the motion hasn't been agreed with the court yet. That's really interesting that her legal counsel would come out and say, essentially, I can't work with her.
Because she's really delusional, isn't she? That's what it is. Well, from like, it's not even like press like, you know, speculation. She genuinely is delusional. Like from the interviews you see and stuff like that. She just said she isn't involved. That guy passing away because he had a heart attack. The reason he had a heart attack is because you drove a car into him. Yeah, it's insane. There's certain people that just need prison, and like Cornette was on about it on his podcast, and like he obviously had a soft spot for Tammy Sytch, but he said now it's kind of there's enough is enough. Like he can't feel bad for her anymore.
So, with it being manslaughter and all the DUI charges combined, could serve up to a maximum with all the combined sentences of 30 years. It's unlikely, sadly, that she'll get that long. Is a history of her DUIs and her previous offences. She's historically not been incarcerated for long on those. And the fact that with it being manslaughter, although the max is 20 years for that, generally it tends to fall somewhere between the 5 and 10 year, with parole much sooner. And
then the good old good behaviour crap.
Yeah.
And then they're out in 3 years after murdering someone technically. Yeah.
So the key thing is, though, she's still currently in jail, will be in jail until the sentence takes place. Her guilt isn't in question from what I believe. It's a case of waiting transfer to actual prison. So, yeah, quite a mental situation going on there.
Yeah. Well, as I said, hopefully prison happens. Oh, you think it's just because they're public eye people, like Aaron Hardy, for example? Like, if someone in Hardy's he wasn't a wrestler and he was just a normal employee of somewhere, he wouldn't get this many chances. It's stupid.
So our final big news story of the week, we talked about Randy Orton's injury status on the podcast, though nothing official had come out at that point. WWE themselves haven't addressed it. However, it is believed that Randy Orton will now be out for the rest of the year because he requires surgery on his back. Things have gotten progressively worse. Fightful, who is reporting on this, have been told that he does not factor into any creative plans for WWE at all at the moment, although he was slated for the SummerSlam match. Hence why Brock Lesnar's been shoehorned back in again, despite having beat him just a few months ago. And I believe
the amount of matches they've had, Roman Reigns and Lesnar, by the way, like I think it was Vitamin or someone put it in the chat, and it was just like since 2015 they've had like 10, 15 matches.
Yeah. So God knows what the plan is for that now, and what that means for Drew at Clash at the Castle. We'll talk more about that in itself on the podcast when we review Raw and SmackDown. But yeah, the whole Brock coming back thing as well is also showing the at least the wrestling fans out there, like the smart ones, like to call themselves, that Vince is still in charge. So part of me thinks that that's part of a power play as well. Like bringing Brock in as the replacement. But that's speculation on my part.
Yeah, like bringing Brock in. Obviously, it was announced I don't know how quick, like with the news as well, but Cena for his anniversary as well, and they're pumping that in. So they're trying to get the big stars like pumped in at the moment during this period.
Yeah. To be fair, I believe John Cena was announced long before the Wall Street Journal article.
Depends how internally, though, if they were worried, like, we better do a few things during this period because it's going to get posted and we need WWE to look decent.
Potentially. But, yeah, that is the news in its entirety. There are other smaller stories, but we've already gone lot of detail with a barking dog in the background.
I'm a fan.
Do you tell I'm recording when my wife isn't home to keep him under control?
It's fine. Bring in the dog viewers. You can put that tag in the post then that dogs are involved.
So, as I say, Deer Maker will be out as normal later on this evening. But please do all the usual stuff. Our socials will be in the description below, including the main show Twitter handle, which is at honor_club. That's honor with a U because we are British. And do the usual like, comment, subscribe, and let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on the whole Vince situation. Should he even still be around the company at the moment? Do you think he'll get away with it? Let us know your thoughts below. But that just about covers everything for me. Have you got anything else to add, Ray?
There's nothing. I'm looking forward to the team, I got it.
So, that being said, folks, we'll let you go just now and we'll see you all later this evening. Take care, everyone.
So,
Do indeed.